There we go.
Our mission, Helping Parents Heal, is a nonprofit organization dedicated to assisting parents whose children have passed. Through support and resources offered, we aspire to help individuals become shining light parents, meaning a shift from a state of emotional heaviness to one of hopefulness and greater peace of mind. Helping Parents Heal goes a step beyond other groups by allowing the open discussion of spiritual experiences and afterlife evidence in a non dogmatic way. Helping Parents Heal affiliate groups welcome everyone, regardless of religious or non religious background, and encourage open dialogue. Attendance at this meeting is voluntary. We hope that participants will learn from and share with each other. Discussions here are confidential and not designed to replace traditional therapy or spiritual counseling. Zoom meetings run by leadership are not confidential. These meetings typically feature guest presenters and are posted on YouTube so that affiliate members worldwide can watch and benefit. Neither type of Helping Parents Heal meeting is designed to replace traditional therapy or spiritual counseling. Helping Parents Heal offers a wide variety of speakers, allowing parents to learn about many possible ways to heal. This includes presenters covering progressive topics such as afterlife evidence and connecting with our children who have passed. The views expressed by our guest speakers may or may not reflect the opinions of Helping Parents Heal leaders and members, so we ask that you take from their presentations whatever may benefit you personally. Welcome, everyone. We're so glad you're with us this evening. You're in for such a treat, and thank you, James, for being here.
Yes, thank you, James, for being here. And if it's okay, I'd love to read your bio, but we can just jump in if you'd like as well.
We can jump in. Everyone knows who I am. I've been around. One thing I want to start off with is I just, every time I work with you, your group, I just cry because, when I first started this work 40 years ago, there wasn't an organization that could help parents heal with children that passed over. To me, it's the hardest lesson on this earth. And I got to say that every parent that's been through that or going through it, it's one of the most advanced spiritual lessons. And the children that go, that soul group, it's a lesson that we agree upon before we come back. But I do think it's the greatest life. There are children that pass over, our greatest life guides. I don't think anything happens by accident. I think it's divinely led. And we won't know that until we pass over. But I don't know. I just feel it's a privilege. It's a hard one. But it takes an advanced soul to go through this. So I thank you for having me here. And I really love working with your organization.
Oh, thank you so much. I know that that is something that every parent wants to hear, that this is something that, first of all, we have already decided that we were going to go through this. It is one of the most difficult things that any parent can go through, but our kids are happy, healthy, and home, and we are just here trying to make them proud, which is, I think, something that everyone is doing, and you are helping us so much. I'm going to go ahead and read your bio, if that's okay. So people know about you because you're one of the most well-known evidential mediums in probably the world, and we're thrilled that you're going to be here with us in Phoenix very soon. James Van Praagh is hailed throughout the world as a pioneer of the mediumship movement and considered one of the most widely recognized and accurate spiritual mediums working today. A survival evidence medium, he provides evidential proof of life after death through highly detailed messages from the spirit realm. I just have to say that he just did this recently with us, and we had so many wonderful validation stories come in about those readings. He is recognized annually on the Watkins list of the 100 most spiritually influential living people, a prestigious list of spiritual teachers, activists, authors, and thinkers. For over 3 decades, Van Praagh's messages have brought comfort and peace to millions. He has worked with international heads of state, religious world leaders, and celebrities, including Cher, Goldie Hawn, Shirley MacLaine, Ellen DeGeneres, Joan Rivers, Katie Couric, Loretta Lynn, Chelsea Handler, Jennifer Love Hewitt, Wesley Snipes, and so many more. James Van Praagh is a #1 New York Times best-selling author of over a dozen international bestsellers, including his debut, Talking to Heaven. Van Praagh's book titles include Talking to Heaven, Reaching to Heaven, Healing Grief, Heaven and Earth, Looking Beyond, Meditations, Ghosts Among Us, Unfinished Business, Growing Up in Heaven, which I highly recommend, as well as all of these other books, Adventures of the Soul, How to Heal a Grieving Heart, and The Power of Love. Throughout his career, James Van Praagh has appeared on countless national and radio and television shows, including The Oprah Winfrey Show, Larry King Live, Dr. Phil, 48 Hours, The View, The Joe Behar Show, Chelsea Lately, Coast to Coast AM, and many more. He was the host of his own internationally syndicated television show, Beyond, and was a successful producer for CBS, creating a mini-series based on his life, Living with the Dead, starring Ted Danson, and the popular television movie, The Dead Will Tell, starring Eva Longoria. He was also executive producer of CBS's long-running series, The Ghost Whisperer, starring Jennifer Love Hewitt. So hopefully you guys are all realizing, oh my gosh, this is amazing that he's here with us.
He's old, yeah.
Today, he continues to develop high-minded programming and consults for international production companies. Several years back, he launched the James Van Praagh School of Mystical Arts, which offers a variety of multimedia online learning experiences, ranging from professional certification courses to audio and video courses. The school has recently been recognized as the #1 online learning platform for students interested in exploring all things spiritual. Currently, fans of James, this is the last paragraph, can tune into his popular video podcast, Both Sides Now and Beyond. Both Sides Now and Beyond is all one word, every Monday evening on the James Van Praagh YouTube channel and other social media platforms. James continues to share messages from the spirit world and assist people during their life journeys on stage and online through his Evenings of Spirit, which can be accessed through his website, which is www.vanpraagh.com. For more of James' special blend of warmth, wisdom, and spirituality, follow him on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And without further ado, please join me and Irene and Lisa Wilcoxon in welcoming James Van Praagh. Welcome, James.
Thank you very, very much. That was a lot of stuff. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Lovely today by Lisa. I want to thank Lisa again. That was great. And yeah, here I am. I'm very happy to be here.
Well, we're thrilled to have you. And we already have questions in the chat box. So did you want to say anything more before we get started, or we can just jump right in?
That's fine. Yeah.
Okay. So Irene, could you pick the first question that's in the chat box?
Okay, I believe it is from, I have to scroll back up. Sally is asking, I have had several people transition. If I'm sad and thinking about one of them, do the rest wonder why I'm not thinking about them?
No, not at all. They, the first thing in the spirit, when you get to that side and your mind is expanded and you're aware of every thought that people have about you. They hear all your prayers and they know you in a whole different way. They don't feel bad about that. That's very human to think that way. No, not at all. They love that you love them in all different ways.
That was beautiful. And
Diane sent me a direct message. She didn't realize she wasn't typing it to the group. And her question is there a way to tell if we are getting a sign from our loved one or if it's just a coincidence?
Sure. And coincidence is God's way of remaining anonymous. And we're all God, we're all that energy. And the way I like to say that it gets signs, number one, become aware of what the sign is. So if it's a bird that's there, but kind of out of place a little bit, or a dragonfly that sits there and is just staring at you, and then feel within your intuition, which is the soul's tuning fork, what it feels like. I always go by the feeling. And also when you get a sign like that, and it comes in different ways. I mean, all different types of signs, whether it's through animals, whether it's a visual. My sister sends me dimes all the time. And when I get that sign, I send a thought out to them and I listen again. Say, what else do you want to say to me? What other message can you give me? So that's very important. They'll come any way they can to get through to you. The number one way spirit communicates is the dream state, because first of all, we're out of the body. Every night we go to sleep, we leave the body through the top of the head, the crown chakra, and we go to the other world, the other realms, and we see our loved ones, we see our guides, we work on future things that'll happen. So we do sense that. And so then when we pass over, when it's our time to pass over, it's not such a shock because we've done it during sleeping state. So that's just something to know, that they're always going to be around us and they hear all of your thoughts.
That's beautiful. There are so many great questions in the chat box. Um, a lot of them are talking about the signs Irene is asking, and I think that this is very important because I think that this is something that really reassures parents. Many of us are concerned that our children were frightened at the time of their transition. What have souls relayed to you about their transition?
Very great question. A great question, and one which a lot of people are concerned about. And I'm just going to say, from the human point of view, the earthly point of view, that makes sense. I just want to expand this a little bit by saying fear is an emotion of the human. It's of this earth. There is no fear on the other side of the veil. There's no fear. It's just pure love. And the soul, which is within us, and I often say this, and I will say it again, that my percentages might be off, but 30% of the soul is in the physical body, 70% is outside. So we're really outside of us as our soul self. And we can leave the body very quickly to the thought. We sometimes, you'll be driving, all of a sudden you forget the exit, or you're reading a book and you don't remember what you read. It's because you're kind of not in the body fully. You're fully, and it's our natural sense of leaving the body. It's not a big deal. It's very easy and natural. And right away, and this comes from many, many experiences of 40 years of doing my work and people's near-death experiences and so forth, there's an opening. There's immediately a sense of peace, immediately a sense of love, immediately a sense of, oh, I'm back home. I remember this because we've done it many, many lifetimes, thousands and thousands of lifetimes. So it seems very natural. It's something we remember. And there are always those in the spirit world who know what's going on. No one ever dies alone. Even though it might appear like an accident, the spirit people know. They know the intelligence of that world, or beyond us. They're very much involved with our everyday world, everyday step. So we just got to know I've never had a spirit say they're frightened or they're fearful. It's usually the ones left behind on the earth that project that. But no, we're all taken care of. And there's a reunion, even if it sounds, again, I keep on getting accident. So realize that for us, it's an accident. But for them, the spirit world knows exactly what's going to happen. So no reason to worry about that, not at all.
That's so reassuring. Thank you. Irene, would you like to ask the next question?
Sure. Melissa is asking, I have often heard of people who have transitioned who do not know they have passed. This concerns me, and I wonder how one can be so confused as to not understand why others are not responding to them.
Great question. A great question. So there's so many aspects we got to look at here. So for instance, if it's someone who doesn't believe, an atheist or agnostic or whatever you want to call it, that don't have a belief system about life after death in any way, whether it's religious or not, but there's no sense of that. They might be so ensconced in the human part of themselves that they might be out of themselves but not wonder where they are. But again, there's always those beings, spirit guides and loved ones that come to greet them. And it might take a reassurance for them to realize that they've left the body. So here's a story, an actual real story that happened. It was a young man going on a date. He was probably about 20 years old, 22 years old. He was on a freeway in California, and he was going on a date and got all dressed up, and he was going to meet this girl at the restaurant a little far away. And there was all of a sudden, there was an accident of some kind. And he was outside, kind of his point of view, his perspective was looking down at this accident. And he was wondering, what's going on? Wow. And he was there and there's accident. He's like, why am I seeing all this? Now, he didn't feel himself leaving the body. He was just there. And he didn't realize he'd passed. He saw his grandfather come to him. And his grandfather said, hello, Johnny. Hello, John. We've been waiting for you. He goes, but you're dead. He goes, well, you're with me. He goes, I didn't feel anything. How could I be dead? I thought I'd feel something. I don't feel a thing. He goes, well, you passed out of the body. And he had him look down at the car, and they took the body out, and so he saw his own body. He goes, but how could I be dead when I'm here alive and I'm with you? He goes, well, that's death. That's the passageway. That's the way it works. And so he had to see that for himself. And it opened him up to understanding. So sometimes when there's, sometimes not often, it's really the percentage is not as high as you'd think. There are some people that everybody visits their own funerals, memorial services. And it's very interesting that the women look and see who's there, who's visiting, and the men tend to say, the men tend to, who's paying for this? But everybody will visit the service, and sometimes to show them that this is real. And it's hard for them because they feel so alive. That's where we feel alive. And this earth level, this three-dimensional world, there's only a small percentage of us alive, really. So you come to your fullness of being as you pass back home into those realms. You feel so good and so healthy. You say, I've heard this many times, I can't be dead. I feel so good. And now that they have clothes on, and the clothes that they're wearing, say, how come I be dead? I have this clothes on. I'm perfectly, oh, we dressed you. We dressed you with our thoughts. And it happens. And I've sat many times with Leslie Flint, who was a physical medium, where the spirit people, the doctors and chemists, create what's in the air, an ectoplasmic voice box, an artificial voice box with a larynx. And everybody can go find it online, the Leslie Flint Trust. You go online. I sat with Leslie 4 times, and you're sitting in this dark room, but you feel a pulling of energy. And this is amazing. A man came through. I know everyone's sitting there wanting a message, but it took several times, 3 attempts, I think it was, but I got a message. There's like 10 people in the seance room. And I heard a Frenchman say, this is about 1988, 89. He came through and said, I want to speak to James. I want to speak to James. James, you're a psychic, a sensitive. One day you will write a book. You will travel over water. We have many people believing in you. You're going to help many people, my friend. And I have the tape of it, the actual tape. And I was shocked. And immediately after that, my mentor took me under his wing and helped me to develop. But then my mother came through, and it was my mother's voice. And my mother used my nickname. And it was just incredible. So anyway, no one should ever be afraid of death. It's really going home. And I wish, and that Leslie Flint Trust website, you can hear Queen Victoria, you can hear all different things. Oscar Wilde comes through, all different types of people there. So I tell everyone to go look at that. It'll change your perspectives in some way.
Oh, how beautiful. Oh my goodness, I had goosebumps when you were talking about that, and that they dress you with their thoughts. That's
Elizabeth,
so,
also you that when many times when people pass over, and let's say it's an older person, and they find themselves in a space sometimes where they'll go to the mother's house, and the mother's house, just like they were on Earth, and the people will bring them to the mother's house. I remember this exactly like it was. I said, yes, we've created this for you, and it helps with them adapting to the new surroundings. So that's very common. And they'll have them rest, and at the time they rest, they go kind of a life review. But it's I've had a dream before when a good friend of mine passed over, very close friends of mine, and I was so upset. And he used to come out and visit me in California from Florida in the summertime because he was a teacher, and he used to make tea in the morning. And I was in this dream with him in the kitchen, my little kitchen, my apartment, and he was there just like making tea, so real. He even opened up the cupboard, and there were names of the teas, and there were the cups the same way they were. And I was like, this is crazy. It's so real. And he said, I created this for us as a memory. The memory is real. I created this. So we relive those memories. It's very, very real. We can create anything with our thoughts. And remember that when it's our time to go, there'll be a lot of work and a lot of help and a lot of love for us to welcome us.
oh, that's just so beautiful. And we'll go back to our same soul group that we've been traveling through many decades or many
That's right.
with as well, which is very exciting. Sherry's asking a beautiful question. Can you help us understand the deeper energy exchange that happens when we are in nature? Maybe to explain how we can connect with kids.
It's a great question, and you're asking the right person because I live in a space with 8 gardens I've created. I was fortunate enough to always, when I was a little boy in Queens, New York, I used to have a teaspoon, and I lived in a very small house, very small little front yard, and I would just dig up the dirt, and I loved the earth, and I felt the connection to earth. And I said, one day I want to have a garden. I'm going to have a garden, and I do. I have an acre of land, and I've created 8 different gardens, and I let the land speak to me. I've always been into nature, always. And there's a like, it's the life force. It's that vital force in every living thing. And to me, when you walk in nature, you just connect with the plants. You just feel the energy running through the plant, the life force. That we all have that life force. It's that's life itself. And I tell you, me personally, it's my walking meditation. And I connect with the plants and I hear them saying, I need water or I need to be in the sunlight. I just hear them. And I do that and they flourish. So it's just amazing. So I believe there's a great connection with that. If people have trouble grounding themselves, maybe because they think too much in their heads or a lot is going on around the stress, lay down on the grass, hug a tree. You'll get that force because there's always a give and take. And they're here to help us with our journey. And the animals too, you can feel the life force in the animals. Again, the dragonflies, the birds, they're always there and you can communicate with them. Why couldn't we? We're all souls and we're all connected in some way.
Oh, so beautiful. I have to say that back when Morgan transitioned, I wanted to hike every mountain around us, and I would all by myself because my husband was working in China at the time. And I would put one foot down and say sacred, and then I'd say grateful on the other when I put the other foot down, and just keep saying that in my mind. And I felt like Morgan was hiking with me everywhere that I went. So I know that it's really important to connect with nature, to be able to connect with our kids as well. And Irene, would you like to ask the next question?
Sure. And I love this question because so many of us have trouble understanding the concept of time in the afterlife. And Yelena is asking if time doesn't exist in the spiritual world and our souls can be in many places at the same time. Is it possible that our past and present lives overlap? In other words, do we live in parallel worlds? Do we live another life right now, this minute, with our kids being present with us over there? So do you want to talk a little bit about that concept, please?
Make it very easy to understand because it's a very complex, it could be very complex. If we're in the 3D world, this human world, it's hard for us to fully understand it. But I'm just going to draw something out, which has come to me in dreams many times when I ask this question. So sometimes, kind of like this, I don't know if you can see this here. It's a center and little circles. So, which means that, yes, this 3D human world has time, a linear time. And we use that here to measure moments of a passage. There is no such thing as time in the spirit realm. So once we pass into other dimensions, they don't have time. Time is only relative to this three-dimensional world. And saying that, we can live the past, the present, and the future all as one. And we pass over that part of the soul, if you will. And the soul is much more than we know right now. As I said earlier, 70% is out here, living other lifetimes, future lifetimes, past lifetimes, visiting different galaxies, being with our children, our guides. We can live several lives at once. And like you asked, yes, very much so. It's a different way of being, if I could say that to you. And so this is something that came in recently too, that from our work here on this earth, which by the way is the hardest school there is in the galaxies, so I've been told, and I believe that, as everyone here would know, it's a hard place. But they say that what we do here on this earth can affect the past and the future. So if we did something horrific in a past life, if we did something more bad, we can do something positive here, and that probably will change that from the past because there's no time. It's just how you change it. The most important thing I would say to everybody is it's always your intention behind the act. What is your intention? What's your pure intention? So you can be in several lifetimes at once, no doubt about it. And it's pretty trippy, I say, because people say, well, how can I be there and how can I be there? It doesn't make sense. I said, well, the soul can travel multi places all at once. I've known this because I've also lived this myself. My sister passed a year ago, April. And right before she passed, she came to me when I was shaving, and she said, Sister Marie is helping me. And I'm like, Sister Marie. Now, my sister was in the hospital, Sister Marie, but my sister was still alive, right? But her soul could travel. So the soul can travel even when you're, when you're in here in the physical. And she said, Sister Marie is helping me. And I said, who is Sister Marie? And I'm thinking, oh, that was her nun that she had as a counselor in camp when she was 14 years old. And so she was helping her over, but she was telling me that she was still alive. And on the plane, I went on a plane right back to New York from California, where she was. And all of a sudden, I got the magic carpet. Tell her something about a magic carpet. And when I went to visit my sister, and she said, I'm ready for my magic carpet ride. I hadn't said anything about that. So we do travel, even when we're alive. We're not fully alive until we fully pass over. I think, again, 30% of the soul. So just remember that perspective.
That's beautiful. There's another question from Jennifer that kind of expands on that question. She says that she was a very boundaried parent when her son was here. Since he's passed away in April, this spiritual journey has been the only thing that gives her comfort. At the same time, she's obsessing a little bit about feeling like he now knows her every thought and sees every action, things I would have that would have protected him here on earth. Um, are there any, what are your thoughts on being able to make this less distressing for her? I think one of the funniest things that I've heard is that they never watch us shower. They could care less about seeing us naked, but
They're asked about sex, going to the bathroom. They don't really care. They're more important things. It's very. It's so funny, Elizabeth. I say to people all the time, it's such a human question. It's such a human thing. They don't. That doesn't. That should not bother them. The one thing I've learned over my many years working with parents, and I'm sure people have heard this before, is before we come back to this incarnation, we've agreed that this lesson would come in. And many, many times, I can say the thousands of times I've read parents, been with parents, the soul of the child would say, Mom, this was our plan to push you on your spiritual pathway. This had to happen in order for you to start questioning. Is there life after death? How should I behave? Is there a God? So, Mom, that wouldn't have happened if I didn't pass. So many times that's the way it is, to push them on their spiritual path. And there's so much love and respect. We should never worry about them knowing our secrets. They come from love, and they see us as love. Shouldn't worry about those things. They can care less. And they see that you for who you are, your character. And when we pass over to the other side of life, it's very interesting because we're all light, and the people don't necessarily, when on the other side of life, when they see each other over there walking around and being part of that world over there, there's lovely gardens and so forth, they don't speak to each other verbally. It's telepathically, right? And when you see someone, you'll see all the colors of their auric field, the colors of their soul, who they are, and you'll see in those fields of color the type of character that they were on Earth, and you'll see that. And so that's very interesting. So if we want to have beautiful colors, we do nice things. We use love in this life, not fear. We don't hurt someone. We don't judge someone because we never know where they come from. So we always take the higher road, less traveled. And that would be a wonderful thing. One thing I want to lead into here, if you don't mind, is people ask about what is heaven and where is it? I believe there are many levels to heaven. And the Bible says, my Father has a house with many mansions. And I believe that to mean the various spiritual levels which exists for all different belief systems, if you will. And I think that that's a really important thing to know. And you can, once you get to a certain level, you can go below, right? But you can't go higher, not unless you've earned it by your life and your good works. So I just want to throw that in there.
that's beautiful. And I think that something that you told us last time, and I totally agree with you, is that there are only two real emotions in this world, and they are either fear or love. And we all, it's difficult always in every situation to choose love, but I think that that's the thing that we all try to aspire, or try to work towards, is always feeling that emotion of love.
And Liz, it's important to realize that, that life is a series of choices, and all choices are based on two things, either love or fear. And fear is a human emotion. It's part of this earth three-dimensional world. It doesn't exist over there. And fear, sometimes we have fear, it's because we don't understand something, we don't know something. And sometimes we judge another because of fear. We want to feel more in control, if you will. And we think by putting someone else down, we have the control. Not true. We want to do the opposite. So try to love everybody at the level that they're at. Meet people at the level that they're at. So many people, I'm sure a lot of the parents here think, I've had messages from my daughter, and I'm trying to tell my husband, or trying to tell another person, and they don't get it, or they don't believe in it. And really, you have to realize that there are all different levels of souls here. There are baby souls or beginning souls just starting off. There are souls that are postgraduate souls in school that are healers or light workers. There are middle grade souls that are still figuring things out. So they're all different levels, even in our family. So, we might say, well, they don't understand, but they're limited. Maybe they're limited in their understanding. So we have to have patience and love them for where they're at.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Thank you. Irene, did you have another question that you wanted to
Sure.
ask?
Christy is asking, talking about she was getting visits in her dreams for about 6 months after her child passed, and she doesn't seem to be getting them. Casual dreams. She's heard of other parents experience the same thing. Is there something about visits tapering off as time goes on?
These are great questions, everybody, and they're really wonderful because it's true. So a couple of ways I want to look at this is that number one, imagine when you were back in high school, let's say, and you were sitting next to someone in homeroom. Is it hard to remember what their names were or where they were? Because you've traveled far since that time. So the longer they're over there, the harder it is to, again, there's such an expansion of our souls. We're so big. And it's so funny because they have to come all the way back to this 3 dimension and try to fit into this little box. That's memory of how you have of them when they're at this whole expanded soul. So a little bit of expansion there. But when someone first passes, the ties, the magnetic ties, the energetic ties, the love ties, still very much in place because they've passed. And we'll have more visits, we'll have more connections with them. But there's very busy worlds over there. And they travel, they do things, they have to do their works, their mission work, like we do our work here. They always are around us. So that's another thing going back to can we live several lives once? They're always to be able by our side. And they can be doing other things as well. But that connection of love never dies. That bond stays strong. But there is they call it the second death, in that when that soul is ready to go to another level, you don't feel them as much as you used to. Doesn't mean they're around you, but they're kind of their thought, their focus is doing their work, doing something, but they're still with you, but you don't feel it as much. So it is very, very true. But they're always, I don't know how to explain it. They're always with us. I often say, like, we live here, I live in the United States, so I'm in California, but my family's in New York. But I can think about them. I know they exist, but I think about them. They're with me because the thought is there. Same thing, kind of a spirit, but there is that second death. But always remember, they're just a thought away. They hear all of our thoughts, and they are there. So, and some people think, gosh, if I think about them too much, am I holding them back? That's another common question. No, you don't have, no, you're not God in that respect. They will, if they choose to, they have free will. They have to do their work. I have a partner who passed, John, who passed years ago. And I was really ill last year with pneumonia. And I thought I was going to go. And I said, John, come get me. John, come see me. He wouldn't come. Finally, the second day he came back. And I said, where have you been? He goes, oh, I've been out traveling, but I'm finally in your orbit. So he got the thought. And that's really important that we know that they're always just a thought away.
That's so beautiful. And it's kind of like I kind of imagine my kids being on a study abroad program. Morgan obviously transitioned when he was studying abroad, but I think that all of us can kind of imagine our kids doing fabulous things
Oh,
abroad
they're
and
I
here.
mean, and we got to remember something really, really important here, in that many people measure a time in life, a successful life, along with at 80, 90 years, 80 years, 70 years. That's a physical self. That's the human self. We have to look at the soul experience, the soul life. So remember that this is a soul school. Earth is a soul school, hard one. And the soul is all based on experiences and lessons that they need. And there are some souls that just need to go through the birth experience and then can go home. There's some souls at 10 years, some are 20 years, and some have to experience suicide, some experience we assume tragedy or accident. They gotta go through that for some reason for their soul's makeup there. But that's important to remember as we look at this, that it's from a soul point of view, not the physical human point of view. It's a soul point of view, and it's all the experiences that they need. They'll leave when they're experiencing, when they graduate, when they finish their lessons.
Yes, they graduate home. There's a really interesting question from Brian, and I think I just got it mixed up. But okay, no, actually, this is from Barbara. I have my glasses on, but I can't see very well. Do souls start to prepare the human body for transition? Because many of the things my son did and said in the weeks prior to his accident seemed to show that on some level he knew something was going to happen.
Very much.
So,
Very true. Yes, I believe that is true. I do believe on another level they're aware that they're going to pass. Not necessarily in the conscious level of the human, but I do believe on the super soul level, of whatever we're going to call that, label that, there is an awareness, and it is. I do believe that.
yeah, that's beautiful. And actually, we have so many people in our group that have had amazing things happen before their children transition, proving that they knew that they were going to transition. And so I believe that as well. And Irene, do you have the next question for us?
Sure, I love Kathy McManus's question. Many parents that I've spoken with feel like they don't get signs. Then they fear that maybe their child is upset with them. Can you help to ease this for them?
Oh, please don't think that way. It's not true. It's not true. It's not true. It's not true. Number one, they give you signs if you let them. Now, what I say is, how do we let them give us signs? Well, the more you think, come to me, come to me, come to me, give me a sign, give me a sign, the more you demand, it kind of blocks the space. It kind of blocks the energy field in the mind. So like when I do readings for people, I say at the beginning of a demonstration, please don't block that. Be very open. And the message usually goes to the husband that was dragged there by the wife. He didn't believe in it necessarily, but he gets it because he's open-minded. So don't try so hard for a sign, because it's harder for them to get through when you're tight and you're trying to control it and very tight. So it's got to be more open. And trust me, that's again a human thing, a human judgment there. Don't know. It's no, they love you. Their love continues on, greater than you know, greater than you know. And just don't try so hard. And they really will come to you in a relaxed space. And a lot of you receive signs or feelings, messages, when you take a shower, when you're reading a book, when you're driving the car, when you're not thinking, because you're giving them space and room to come in easier that way. So let them do it that way. That's the best way. And also, everybody here can put themselves in a light meditative state with the breath and get in that light, beautiful state. And then maybe sit with a pen and a pad and start writing, automatic writing. Just let them come through you. And that's it. But don't try so hard. Lightly, just let them come through. It's a great way to work with them.
That's beautiful. And a lot of people were asking about the Leslie Flint website, and Lisa typed it in. So if anyone's looking for it, it's in the chat box. And I
Great.
lots of people are going to be very excited about watching that. Claire is saying that she was able to do mediumship readings very informally for others before her son passed. It's been 2.5 years, and she fears that she will never be able to connect like that again. Once someone has a loved one passed and they are in grief, does it mess up our ability to connect because of our energy being too low?
Well, it's kind of what I was just talking about with it. There's too much in the head, too much thinking going on. So grief, it's a human condition. It's a normal, natural experience that you've signed up to go through. It's a natural reaction. Grief it's a really a helpful, because, and it really, I mean, the more you grieve, I don't know, it just shows the amount of love that you've had. I think it's very, there's no time in grief. There's no, you can't measure grief, and some grief is this long or that long. The only thing I want to say to people, so it's don't worry about that. I think that you don't play so much on that, on yourself. Be lighter within yourself. Love yourself. That will take care of itself. But I just want to just say, be careful not to be a professional griever. Don't look at yourself that I'm a mom that lost a son, because that's not who you are. That is an experience that you had in your makeup in this lifetime. But you're much, much more than that. And I always have to say that to groups, because there's a lot more to life than just that. And you can help people by being more open and expanded. And that's the only thing. But quite the opposite. I find that when people have lost someone, and children, they become very mediumistic. They become very, very open and very spiritual. And more times than not, they become more mediumistic that I've experienced. And that could have been the agreement that they had in the soul group before they came in the incarnation.
So it sounds like you're going to be getting those abilities back pretty quick now.
Very much so. Love yourself through it, please. Love is the way to open the door. Love is it. And don't don't beat yourself up. Don't put yourself down. There are enough people out there that do it for us. We don't need to do it ourselves. We got to remember to honor ourselves, to have gratitude, and to love ourselves. And that's what our children would want from the side. If I could pass any message to everybody, they want us to love ourselves more. And it wasn't a punishment. It was quite the opposite. It's a strange thing to say, but in many ways it's a gift that we don't understand yet. It's hard to unwrap it yet. But I know when we all pass over, we'll understand it much more clearly. But I got to tell you, I do believe there's divine timing. Everything is divinely led. And I think as humans, we get shut off. We get shut off of the truism. You know, before we come into the incarnation, into the body, we go through what's called the valley of forgetfulness, that the soul can't remember past lives because, and that's through the grace of God, I guess we would say, because if we came here and remembered things that we did in past lives, we might be so obsessed with those things that we wouldn't progress in this lifetime, like and do the lessons we're supposed to do. So we have to measure that also in grief. Are we holding ourselves back from learning? Are we holding ourselves back from lessons to be learned? And it's important that we go through those lessons and expand and live our lives because we want to make sure we pass over. We'll always be with our kids and our family and soul family. We want to progress. So always remember that. Keep an open heart and heart forward. Best way.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
Beautiful. You know, James, I think I don't remember which book it was that you wrote this in, but Elizabeth and I bring it up in so many meetings with so many people that we talk to. When you said that a soul came to you, I believe it was a son, and he said, you know, I passed once, I crossed the veil. Why do you have me die every day? Why
Yeah,
not concentrate on how I live? And that's really how we try to live our lives as shining light parents. Not
exactly.
We don't want to be defined by our children's transition, by how they have transitioned. It doesn't matter to them. It was just a method to pass over.
Right. That's right. Live their love. The love they share. Your love is always there. Love is in your heart. And share that love with other people. And share the love with maybe new parents who've going through this experience. The love that you had for your child and the experiences. And, you know, yeah, it's hard to describe in human terms, you know, all these sorts of things. But the amount of love that these kids, children come in with for their parents is just so incredible. I'll never forget a reading I did in New Jersey. I might have told this before. And it was a young man that came through with his mother and father in a hole there. And he said, Mom, why do you stare at the ground? You know, I'm not in the ground, Mom. And you know, other people are not in the box. And he said to his mother, Mom, you must forgive that man. I think it was Max. You must forgive Max. And her son died in a car crash from a drunk driver named Max. Now, Max survived. So the son said, Mom, I've forgiven him. This is your lesson to forgive him now. And it was really important that he showed this to me very clearly. When we don't forgive another, it hurts our own self. It's really kind of a slow cancer to us. It tears us down. And when we can forgive, it frees us up. It's a medicine we give ourselves. And her son was trying to push this to her and everyone in the audience, the importance of forgiveness and that these are lessons. And yeah, it's really important that don't think of me as dead. That's kind of disrespectful, I think, in many ways. They, you know, they're kind enough not to say that, but think of them as alive because they're more alive than we are.
Oh, so beautiful. And it's true that it's so much more fun to talk about how they lived than to talk about how they transitioned, but even more importantly, all of the incredible signs that they're sending us now. So they're still just as much alive and probably a lot more alive than they were here on Earth. And
Exactly.
being able to have that connection with them is what allows us to heal as well. So,
And let
um,
me say something really important. Just came into my head just now, so I got to say it to you. Everybody out there watching, if you want to, you know, if you want to learn or know, be aware of what your daughter, your son, or what their lesson, what their I know they're all guides of ours, right? There are guides, and maybe there's one important aspect, one important lesson they're teaching us from the other side. Maybe they're helping you work with more compassion. Yes, you know, when they get a pad and piece of paper and ask them, give me a word you're helping me learn about. Maybe it's forgiveness, maybe it's compassion, maybe it's unconditional love. You know, so it could be a word, and that's maybe they're working with you to bring that out. So that's a good exercise.
Yes, that sounds wonderful. It sounds a lot like automatic writing, and we love that. And we just did an exercise with our Helping Parents Heal Art for the Heart group last night to create a mandala. And it was something that we did with our kids. And one of our affiliate leaders, Kelly Worth, was the leader of this. It was just beautiful. So it's true that being able to do activities, asking them to come through and help us is something that really helps us to be able to understand that connection that we have with them. But Irene, do you have another question for?
Sure. Leslie is talking about numbers. Lately, I've been getting lots of symmetrical numbers: 1111, 222, 333, 1010. What does this mean?
So this is good, a good question, and it's very common that they are around numbers. Numbers can be a sign of certain things. I'm not an expert in the numbers, but I know 111s are beginnings, 99 are endings. So there's, I don't, and 2, 3, there's a series of them. Pay attention to them. Again, whenever there's a sequence like that, or there's, again, something out of order, like, a dragonfly, ask them, right, what do you want me to know? What do you want me to know? So that's the best way. And there's some good books on that and synchronistic numbers. You can go online and find them. I'm not familiar with some, but I know that they exist, and very important. Numbers are a vibration. Pythagorean said the whole universe is measured in numbers, and it's really true.
That's beautiful. Yes. So numbers are important to a lot of parents, and a lot of times they have the same numbers coming through all the time. Kim is asking a question, and I just want to reassure her. This is so fascinating. She's saying, I experienced a dual death when my daughter passed. Is there a reason that I experienced this? I have never heard of it before. Before I experienced it, it was so incredibly peaceful. I have to say that it's a shared death experience, and I had the same thing happen with Morgan, but maybe you could talk a little bit more about shared death experiences, James.
What exactly does that mean? I've never heard that before.
Shared death experience. This is something that Dr. Raymond Moody coined. So it's similar to near-death experiences, but near-death experiences are you experiencing that transition and going over and experiencing the passing of your body and then coming back to Earth. A shared death experience happens a lot to medical professionals because of the fact that they're around people who are passing. This is something that could involve going through the life review with the person who's transitioning, going through the tunnel to the other side, as well as feeling that joy and the peace that you feel when you transition that you were talking about earlier. So for me, it was when Morgan was transitioning at the base camp of Mount Everest. I asked to have the phone put up to his ear, and I told him that we loved him, that we were proud of him, and not to be afraid. And he hugged me, an enormous hug that I will never forget, from Tibet all the way here to Cave Creek, Arizona. And that was the first experience that I had immediately after Morgan transitioned. So have you heard of this happening though, even if you haven't heard
Yeah, I've
it?
never heard before, which I think I will look this up. It's very good. I've been with people who, and one of the greatest amazing experiences to be with someone who's passed is through transitioning. I was with my father when he was transitioning, and he didn't believe in what I did. He didn't believe in medium, believe it or not. He used to watch me on television every day, and he used to think, "Oh, he's making a living. That's okay." And so it was very interesting because I was getting ready. We were getting ready from the pass. He was at a hospital, and I saw his spirit, his soul. His head was right above his physical head. And I said, "Dad, it's okay to go." And he said, and all my siblings were there. And he said, "I just don't want you kids to fighting over the house." And his house is everything. We won't, promise we won't. And we left 5 minutes later, he left the body, he was gone. But I felt the joy that when he was leaving, I felt amazing. And many people feel a coldness, a freezing coldness, which listen, and he came back, and I was with him in that respect where I saw my mother, and he said, "You got it right. You got it right. I'm alive." So it was so interesting. But another time I want to share with everybody, if that's okay, there was a lovely teacher named Debbie Ford, and she worked with the shadow side. And she was a speaker, and I used to do expos with her and many other people, Wayne Dyer and so forth. And she said to me one day, years ago, she said, "James, I have a rare cancer." can you please help me when it's my time to pass? And I said, Debbie, I'll be more than happy to, I'll be honored to help you. So 2 or 3 years passed, and then her sister said she's very ill and she's kind of in a coma. Can you help her? And I said, yes, I will speak to her. And what happened was that next day, at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I meditated and I brought myself into a space where she was. And she was again in the room where she was. And I saw the room that she was in at the house. And I said to her on a soul to soul level, I said, Debbie, why are you afraid to go? Because the hospice nurse said, I've never seen anyone like this holding on so much control. And she said, I have an 18-year-old son, James. I'm an 18-year-old son. I said, but there are people that can help him. Your mother is here, his sister is here. He'll be okay. She goes, it's so weird. It's like I've been given a brand new car, and I've been keys to a brand new car, but I don't know how to drive. And I said, Debbie, just there's a lot of love right around you. I saw the veil. I saw this beautiful light. And I knew there were two gentlemen there waiting for her. And I said, they're from Florida. She goes, yes, my father is there. My best friend was there. So I said, Debbie, it's okay. You can go. It's like the Wizard of Oz. Just let yourself go to the Emerald City. Just breathe into it, Debbie. You'll be fine. You promise, James? I said, I promise you, Deb. So then about a half an hour later, I went into my house and turned the television on. And I felt this freezing cold, icy cold in front of me and above me. And I knew she'd passed. I said, Debbie passed. And my partner at the time, Brian, came into the living room. He said, did you leave the front door open? I said, no. I said, Debbie passed. Oh, come on. Being a Virgo, he is. He checked the door and it was closed. And he came back and said, oh, Debbie, we love you, Debbie. Have a great journey. And that moment, the phone rang and it was Debbie's sister who said, Debbie just passed. I said, I know. I experienced that. That's the closest I think I've had to that really true, wonderful experience. But I will definitely look up that shared death experience. Beautiful.
Well, he's written books about it as well as William Peters, who was one of the speakers at our last conference, who has done many research studies about this in California at UC Santa Cruz, I believe. And so he's written a book with a whole bunch of shared death experiences in it. So if anybody's interested in learning about this, or if you've had that experience with your own child when they transition, I highly recommend reading William Peters' works or Dr. Raymond Moody's works. But anyway, thank you for sharing those two experiences with us. That's amazing to be able to have her come
Beautiful.
to you. And
Yeah. Just to share like one more thing with people, just the perspective of things. Remember that in the human world, in this three-dimensional world, we're very limited. We're in a box. We're very much in a box. And when the box opens and we're free, we're in a very different experience. We're expansive. It's a whole different dimensions. The colors on the other side, there are colors that we can't even describe here. My friend Caroline recently passed over. She was a really good friend for years, for 50 years. And she was a very card reader with regular playing cards. She was a very good psychic. And and we made a promise to connect if one person passed over before the other one. And she showed me some wonderful colors. And there were colors I can't even describe in the human world because there were blues and whites and golds all turned into one and they were moving. And it's very interesting because when you go the other side, you see a garden and the blades of grass sing. Flowers have a sound. And if there's people go to concerts over there, they'll feel the passion from the artists, the musicians that are playing, and the notes. They'll see the notes and the lights coming around of these notes, the passion. It's very alive. So we in this 3D world, we always got to remember the perspective. We're limited here. We're in a box, but our loved ones are free, and they'll do whatever they can to let us know that. They do all the time. But we have to remember we're a soul having a human experience, not the other way around.
it's so reassuring, and it's so true that we are here in school and our kids are home. They have
Yeah.
graduated and they're very fortunate to be over there, but we're also here for a reason. We're learning incredibly important lessons. So we don't
And
want to go.
you're helping people. You're helping millions of people, Elizabeth, your group and the people through this. Everybody's going through, a parent that's going through the loss they have. Remember, there's a healing that takes place, and that every time you talk to another person about it, and another person, there's a rippling effect, and you're reaching many, 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 many people. And I know that to be true because of my work as a medium. When I first started, no one was out there on television doing it. Nobody was there yet. I was the first one out there with that. And I thought, who's going to know about this? Well, then now millions of people from around the world were touched by that. So it's true. You can have that. It's your work. The work that you do as a parent who really lost or gained that experience. You're helping many people without even knowing it, just by sharing your experiences.
Well, and I think that one thing that everybody has to understand too is that helping others helps us even more. It's just amazing. And thinking that you were speaking to this gentleman through Leslie Flint in 1988, it's kind of incredible to imagine where we've come from 1988, which is very recent. It's actually Morgan's birth year and a lot of other kids' here's birth year as well. It's kind of interesting to think that Carly as well, who's Irene's daughter, and then Lisa has a son who also was born in 1988. So I think that to come this far and to be able to come to understand so much in such a short time is very, very exciting. Um, we have just a little time left. Irene, do you have a question that you think is really important to have James answer?
Well, someone was asking about how can an accident be part of one's soul plan? So I mean, I think we all know that, but I think it would be great if you could talk a little
Sure.
bit about
So, from my understanding, from my work, that everything is divinely done, and as we see as an accident in the human world, in the human way, we see something, and it just happens because we're in time here. But think of it this way: I believe there are no accidents in that things are planned out, divinely planned out. We might not see the full blueprint from where we're sitting, but I believe that the divine world, the spiritual world, that the essence there. I don't think there's anything that happens just. I don't think anything just happens. I think I think things are just meant to be divinely led, even down to certain experiences. Yes, free will can get involved. So yes, I do believe that. So I do believe in some instance free will can be involved. For instance, if someone decides to have a drink and goes and decides to drive drunk and kill someone, that could be free will of that person that decided that. But how do we know it's not karma between those two souls? So it's a hard thing. But from my understanding, and we want to say accidents, I think things are divinely timed, divinely led, from what I know, from my point of view, and that's all I can really shed on that. But again, free will. Remember, it's a soul progression, it's a soul school, and there are things that happen on a soul level that we humans don't fully understand, and we got to understand. We got to realize that things are done from a soul perspective for our growth. Lessons are really hard down here. This is a hard, hard place, and there are many, many galaxies and planets and so forth. But we go to different places, but this is the one we grow from the most. There are many souls who, it's funny, I heard recently, they could take 100 different souls, but there's only one of those 100 that'll make it down to Earth. Out of the 100 souls that want to be. So it's a place that really affords us these incredible enriching opportunities. We don't fully see those opportunities, the value of them, until we go up to the side. We only see them one way, one-sided, you see. So I just know there's more to it than that. There's just more love. We've seen too many magical things happen. It's just that's all I can say. I don't know if that
Perfect.
answers. I mean, we all have to have faith. We're so blinded down here, but things happen with coincidence that we talked about earlier. God's way of remaining anonymous, and there's a pattern, there's a timing. I know the spirit world works very, very hard to make us be aware. Part of the reason we lose people, and many times children, is because not only they advanced souls, but we are, and they're trying to help us from the other side to open ourselves up, more of an understanding, more spiritual, and that's what I believe it is. And everybody should just, if they can be open-minded and really come from the heart space and the gut and that intuition, they'll feel more. Don't overthink it. The part I have the hardest time with my students when they're doing mediumship, when they're in their head, I said, stop the head to heart, because this is where our soul resides, in the heart. And it's a human school with a lot of hard lessons. Right now our country's going through hard, or the world's going through a hard time. But how do we know it wasn't planned beforehand? How do we know? So.
This is an 8-year, and next year is going to be really easy. So we just have to get through this year, and then it'll be so much easier. But I know that we have a wonderful numerologist who comes on and she speaks to us about the 8 year, which is very turbulent, but it brings about good things after.
It,
So that's what we're expecting. So,
movement is part of this earth. We have to go. Life is movement, and we got to move. And for everybody, as far as how to deal with that, I take it one day at a time, one step at a time. Don't overthink things. Don't over worry. Worry's not good, by the way. Worry is an energy. It's a fear energy. So we don't want to use worry. We want to use love and just be kind to ourselves. Take one day at a time. And I use this, and it's good to close with this, is that I deal with things where maybe there are some people in your lives, a family or friends, that they're always bickering or fighting or whatever it is. I use the objective. I look at it like I'm watching a TV show or a movie or a play. I stand back and I see it very objectively, and I see how that person's behaving with that person. That's interesting, and that works really, really well to be aware of what's going on. And then what I always do every day is I will be in a situation, whether it's the grocery store, there's a gas station, where someone might not be happy. It happened today. I went into it was a dental office I walked into to throw away my cup. And I asked the lady, I walked just, can I help you? And I said, yes, what do you want? And I said, I love your smile. She wasn't smiling. And I said, I just wanted to throw my trash away. Would you be able to? So she goes, oh, sure. And I said, you lovely smile. She goes, thank you. You made my day. So you never know, when you bring each day a piece of that love to someone, it changes them. And it'll change everyone else who they interact with too.
oh, that's so beautiful. And yes, you're exactly right. Just being able to be kind to everyone that you see, and it's really not easy sometimes, but it does make you feel better, and I'm sure that it makes the people that you're interacting with feel wonderful as well. And this has been such an incredible evening. It's always so wonderful to spend time with you, James.
Thank
And
you for
I
having me.
know that everyone on here has learned so much. We didn't get through all of the questions, but I know that Irene tried to get through as many as possible. And if possible, maybe you'll come back and
Of
answer some
course,
more.
I'd love to.
We're
Sure.
going to be doing 2 sessions at our conference. So you're going to be doing the gallery reading, and you're also going to be teaching us about mediumship, which is going to be fascinating. And I just want to tell everyone on here, if you weren't able to register for the conference, and we did sell out fairly quickly, we do have streaming for the soul, which is live streaming. So James is going to be live streamed for both of those sessions, as well as there are going to be 17 other sessions that are going to be live streamed. So you have an opportunity to be able to watch it through that. And thank you so much, everyone, for being on here. Thank you, Irene and Kathy, and especially James. And we usually always ask everyone to say thank you and good
Yes,
evening.
please unmute and say thank you and good night. Thank you, James. We can't wait to
Thank
see
you
you
very
in a
Thank you
few
so
weeks.
much, James. You're
Thank
incredible.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, James.
so much.
Bless
Good
you.
night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
What a great
you.
evening. Good night,
Thank you so
everybody.
much. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.